Hey, what's up everybody, this is Mk 24, and today I'm taking a look at the Master Grade version of the Gundam Mark II. This is the version 2.0 HD color version release. The original version 2.0 came out, I believe, 2005 or 2006, and then this HD color version came out, if I remember correctly, it was either 2008 or 2009 when they did the Blu-ray releases in Japan of the Zeta Gundam series, and then the film releases of the Zeta Gundam trilogy. The box art for the HD color versions, all four of them, if you count the Zeta Gundam, the other version of the Mark II, and the Hyakushigi. I love the box art of all of these kits. I think it's really cool with the orange here on the background, and they got the Mark II kind of floating there and firing its rifle, and they got the Rick DS's in the background. Really cool idea there. I can scoot the Mark II out of the way for the moment. Show you the other sides of the box. Here we have a look at how the joints are going to work, the weapons and accessories, a look at the kit with the runners next to it. On the other side, you have a front shot, a back shot, an action pose on a base there, and then a look at the Blu-ray box set releases. And then, of course, the shot on the top, as always, scaled down version of the box art on the front there. Taking a look at the instruction manual, it is the same art as you get on the front of the box, which doesn't make it any less cool. Then you've got a look at how to cut the parts off the trees, list of the runners, which there's not too many of them. There's a lot of big runners for these kind of gray-tan pieces. And then you are going to start off with the body unit, which is much appreciated by me because that's just the way I like to start my kits, is build the body and then work outwards. So then you're going to go for the head and the Vulcan pod, and for whatever reason they do the weapons kind of in the middle here. I just kind of skipped over those for the time being and did the rest of the build before I got into those. But then you have a look at the Gundam from the series. Again, another shot of the Blu-ray comparisons there with the DVDs. And then a look at the inner frame, and some action poses, so on and so forth. Keep building the rest of the kit, and then it's going to show you at the end how to attach the weapons to the kit when you're not using them, fold up the shield, you can get a cool bending pose, where all the stickers and water slide decals go on this kit, and then the paint apps on the back for which colors you would need if you were going to paint this kit up. Which would seem kind of odd since it is the HD color version, but whatever. And then panel lining the head, pilot figure, back shot with everything on this kit. And the nice thing about this Mark II is that you can technically put all the weapons on this kit at once if you're not using them, so that's really nice. For a look at the colors on this kit, you are going to get a very dark navy color for the chest, and it actually kind of looks black on the camera. That's kind of how it looks in person, actually. Part of that's because of the glossy effect to it, but also because of how dark the color is. Then you're going to get some nice contrast with this yellow color on the chest and the neck, and then the V-fin there. You're going to get some red on the jewel and the cockpit and the feet there. You are going to get a kind of a purplish gray. It's kind of an odd color for the hands, the inner frame, the torso section there. And then you're going to get this sort of like kind of beige, kind of gray color for the rest of the body. You're also going to get some chrome for these pistons in the ankles, and I'll show those off a little bit more in a little bit. And then you are also going to get some rope hose material here for the tubing on the backpack and the inside of the legs there. Now, all of this plastic has a glossy look to it because it is the HD color version, so it's kind of a cool finish, I think. It does affect the plastic, though, somewhat, and I will get into that again a little bit later. But for a size comparison with the Granddaddy Gundam, you can see this is the version 2.0 of that kit, and you can see actually that the Mark II is quite a bit taller. I was kind of surprised at that he's almost like a head taller than the original Gundam. And then for a slightly larger Master Grade, we have the new Gundam, and obviously the Mark II is never going to stack up to him in terms of width, but he is actually a little bit closer to the new Gundam in terms of height than I thought he would be, which is kind of odd. Again, there's a bit of a head height difference between the two of them, but he is a little bit closer than I had expected. In terms of the stickers, you are going to get the standard foil sheet, and you're going to get ones for the eyes, for the jewels on the head. You're going to get a couple for the scopes on the rifle and the bazooka, and then these two yellow ones will actually go on the shield along the sides there. So if you really wanted to paint those up, you could. I just went ahead and used those because they have a slightly shimmery look to the stickers. You're also going to get a sheet of clear stickers with all the warning logos and symbols to put all over the kit. And I only use so many of those, but I put some like on the kneecaps here, and I put some on the front of the chest and along the sides there, and on the backpack, and yeah, again, more up here. I didn't want to use a ton of them because I didn't want it to be just plastered with stickers like I did with the Unicorn Gundam and the ground-type Gundam, or even the Zeta Gundam that I did. Just because I felt like there was enough panel lining on this kit already to make it look more mechanical like it does in the series, that I just didn't feel the need to put all those many stickers on there. You do get quite a few waterslide decals, and as I've said before, I'm not really a fan of waterslide decals, although this time they did go a little bit better because I had a decal setting solution to work with, which I realized after I did the Zeta Gundam HD color version that I should have used those, or used that with those decals. They probably would have stayed a little bit better. So far, these decals have stayed pretty good. I haven't done a whole lot of tinkering around with this kit and posing it to really affect them. And I only use so many waterslide decals. But the ones that you do get, you get the standard white and gray AU logos and stuff there. You get a couple different sizes that you can put them on different areas. And then you get these ones, which are really cool to look at. These are the shimmery silver stickers, or sorry, waterslide decals. And you do get a bunch of different ones. These ones are supposed to go on the legs, I believe. This one is supposed to wrap around the thigh. I was really hesitant to use that, and I don't think I'm going to, because those were the first ones to come off on the Zeta Gundam, and I feel like even if I use the setting solution, it's probably not going to stay all that well if it has to wrap around something. The only ones that I did use for this kit, there's a waterslide decal here up on top of the cockpit. They use the AU logo. I used the 2 on top of the head jewel there. I used the Anti-Earth Union Group logo on this shoulder, the RX-178 Gundam logo on that shoulder, just because I thought they looked really cool. And then I put 2 of them on the shield here. Again, one more silver AU logo, which stands out really nicely against this blue, and then the standard AU logo there, which actually kind of blends in a little bit more than I would like it to. But yeah, so there are a lot of waterslide decals if you want to use them on this kit. One other nice thing that they include with the kit is some extra hose piping. You basically just get one long tube of it, and then you can cut it where it tells you to in order to put it on the backpack and the back of the legs and stuff. But you do have a little bit extra in case you need to replace them, and that may be the case for some of you just because of the way that the backpack is constructed, which I will show once I get to the poseability portion. You also get a pilot figure of Camille Bidan or Emma Sheen, or really whoever you want it to be. But it does come with a little flat stand for them to prop themselves up on, which is kind of nice. So they're not just going to fall over. The one thing that you don't get with this kit that the standard version of the Gundam Mk II version 2.0 does come with is the little hanger base action base piece. This does not come with that, and it's a little bit of a disappointment. It's not a terribly expensive master grade, but I feel like they could have just included that, even if it was the same color as the original version, since, you know, it's the same kit basically. It's just different colors slightly. You can open up the cockpit to take a look at the pilot, and the way that it opens up is kind of cool. You basically going to have this piece flip up first, and then you're going to have this part flip down, and when it stays open, it kind of looks like a snake mouth with like fangs dropping down there. But anyways, you can see the pilot sitting in there, and it's actually one of the kits where you have a pretty good view of the pilot no matter what sort of lighting you've got it in, just the way they constructed the cockpit, so that's kind of cool. In terms of the posability on this kit, you're going to have some nice motion in the torso back and forth, and you're going to be able to rock around. It is going to make sort of a click-clack noise as it hits itself because this gray piece just kind of sits there. There's nothing really to connect that to anything, but it still works, I think. The head will go back and forth on this sort of double joint system. It will rotate 360 if you want it to. The collar is not that high up, but the back of the head does come down a ways, so you're not going to get a ton of distance between the two there, and then you're going to be able to kind of wiggle that around a bunch and rock it around. The arms are going to be able to go up about that far, and you do have a little flap here on the end of the arm that goes up and down for really no discernible reason other than, I guess, maybe that's where some vents were on the actual mobile suit in the show. The arms will also go back and forth, and it's kind of interesting because there's just basically a peg that sticks out here, and you put the shoulder piece on first, and then the arms. So the arms and the shoulder are actually not connected to each other, which is kind of interesting. You do get some rotation here below the shoulder. The arms will bend up at about a 180-degree angle. And then the wrist has a double joint system here, and you can rotate that around no problem. You do have a hinge here at the palm, or at the wrist, sorry, to get the palm to go out, and then you are going to have the standard thumb, trigger finger, and then 3 other fingers connected to each other. One thing I'm not hot on with the arms here, I don't know if you can notice there, but there's quite a bit of a gap between one side of the arm and the other, and the same thing on the other side there. That wasn't me messing anything up, that's just how it went together. It basically stayed like that when I put it together, and I think it's because of the nature of this glossy plastic that it doesn't always want to stick together all the way. The arm stays together fine, it's just, it looks kind of gross. I don't know, it doesn't look as nice as it could. And that's just, I guess, a bit of a disappointment for me. And I did notice that with the rest of the kit there were points where the plastic kind of did that. For the front skirts, you're going to be able to get those to go up all the way if you want to. The legs can go forward about that far, and they can only go backwards about that far because the back skirt does not move at all. The side skirts will go up a fair amount, and then you can rock those a little bit back and forth. They do kind of hug the leg, though, which I suppose is kind of a good thing because then it keeps it more flush with the body. If I can get that out of the way a second, though, there is a sliding track here that if you want to get the legs to go forward, the back skirt just fell off, that's always good. If you want the legs to go forward, you can slide them along that track, and now they're further forward for, I suppose, for the kneeling pose, or if you want some different aerial poses, you could do that. But for the most part, I like to keep them back. Just looks better that way since the legs are pretty centered when they connect to the body. As for the legs, you are going to get a nice bend out of them. It's not quite 180, but it's decent. I'm really not hot on the way that the knees look here, because if you put them up to keep them more flush with the leg, you got this bit hanging down here, which I don't know why. If you try and push that down, then you got all the gray parts exposed there. So, I don't know, it could have been a little bit better planning on Bandai's part there. But there's some nice detail with the vents here, and the way that the leg slides open as you're bending it back is kind of cool. As for the feet, you are going to get this wiggling motion around, and you do have 2 pistons here and then 2 chambers for them to go into, but those are all separate. Each one of them has a different ball joint, and then there's this connector in the back, so you're never going to have it where it can only go so far because the 2 pistons will strain on each other. The ankle guard will go up and down quite a bit, and then the foot can bend forward that far, so you can get some cool kneeling poses and stuff. The back of the foot doesn't really do anything, and you can get to go down that far as well. The back of the foot is just connected straight to the foot frame itself. But the way that the back of the leg looks is pretty cool, and you do have some more hose material in there, even though it's like barely visible underneath this piece here. One thing I'm not hot on with the feet, or rather the ankles, this is another case where the plastic just doesn't want to connect all the way. You can see that this part's just popping out, whereas this part is plugged in all the way, and I had the same thing on the other leg. This piece went in all the way, that piece didn't, and that just has to do with the thickness of the nature of the plastic and going into those sockets, and also the fact that with this kit, I've had it before with other master grades and high grades where I will have a little bit of excess plastic on occasion on a few pieces, but for Bandai kits, for the most part, I've never really had that much of a problem with excess plastic on my kits. This one had like trees where half of the tree would have pieces that needed plastic shaved off, and it's not just a little bit, like it was quite a bit, I felt. More than I'd ever seen in a Bandai kit by a long shot, so I was quite disappointed in that. For the sake of this review, I do think that was just my kit in particular. I don't think that's something that's just a factor that goes with all of these HD color versions of the Gundam Mark II, but I do think maybe it's a little bit more likely to come across with the HD color versions that is with the standard, maybe something with the glossy plastic, because I think I had that a little bit with the Zeta Gundam HD color version when I built that, so just something to keep in mind. And finally, as far as the backpack is concerned, you do get individual ball joints for all of these little thrusters on the back, which is kind of cool. You do get a joint for either one of these vents on the top here, and you can get them to go down like he's taking off or something. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that these hoses are very loosely connected on either end, so you move it around too much, or if you try pulling on the hose, it's probably going to pop out, and you're going to have to take the backpack portion apart to reconnect it, which I thought was rather poor planning on Bandai's part, because the pegs that these just slide into are not that big. They're not going to hold these for very long if you do a bunch of that. But if you're like me and you're just going to keep the backpack kind of in this general pose, not that big of a deal. You do also get a joint here that flips forward for the beam sabers on the front of either one of those thrusters. Anyways, everybody, that pretty much wraps up part 1 of this review. Be sure to check back for part 2 when I will go over the weapons and accessories and give my final thoughts on the kit. See you then.